Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez, looking live there, of course, at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We have a number of broadcasts today right here on the network, so looking forward to many of you joining us live for all of them. And then on top of that, as the day goes on, of course, if there's any breaking news or developing news, we'll be sure to bring that to you as it's 9:03 this morning, 6:03 out there on the West Coast. And thank you guys so much for joining us throughout the country right now as we continue to cover this president, this White House, and this historic administration as we see win after win. And we are following a number of developing news stories as well as we continue on with this 24/7 news cycle. Before we get into all the topics, we do know the first thing happening this morning here on Right Side, unless there's any breaking news, will be that 10 a.m. House GOP press conference. So as some of the congressmen and women walk by, if anybody stops there, maybe we can dip in to hear what they're saying as it is now, again, 9:03 this morning. Speaking of that, let's go there right now.
Obviously, you have many years of experience on this. Do you see the possibility of a CR? Is that the most likely outcome?
I wouldn't say it's a likely outcome. It's a possible outcome. I think it's a very fluid situation. Look, we're producing a lot of product. And finally, for the first time in 3 years, the Senate looks like it's going to bring appropriations bills to the floor. Because it doesn't help us to pass bills if they don't. So they've got to do their part in this, and I know Susan Collins is really trying, and we finally have a majority leader in John Thune that I think wants to make that happen. And then honestly, in the end, the Democrats need to decide, do you want a deal? Do you want a shutdown? Do you want a CR? What do you want to do? It's really not our choice. I think a shutdown's a losing game for them. They should have learned that last time, but they beat up poor Chuck Schumer when he did the right thing, kept the government open, and accepted a CR. We had a much better deal on the table for them than they took. That was up to them. But right now, the Democratic base is in a mood. They think if you make a deal with Trump, you've made a deal with the devil, and there's no possible good outcome. That's unfortunate because the president's going to be the president for 4 years. So you better learn how to deal with him, just like we're in the majority in both chambers right now. And Democrats need to come to that deal. But they're still indispensable in arriving at a deal. They have lots of cards to play here. The filibuster guarantees that here. And honestly, if they come to a deal in the Senate, I'm going to lose 20 guys on the right. So there'll be players here. So, but they really have to decide, do you want a deal or not? If not, we'll just have another CR. So sooner or later, that's what it would be. We can't keep the government shut down. Anytime they shut down the government, they have no object. It's an I don't like Donald Trump shutdown. Well, you know, we didn't like President Obama every time, but or President Biden, but that doesn't get you anywhere.
What's your response to their argument that rescissions makes it less?
No, I mean, first of all, most of the things we brought back last year were things that a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate were for, and we weren't. So I mean, what would you expect? That we would accept that automatically? They certainly try to reverse Republican policies when they came over. I didn't notice President Biden suggesting any regret about shutting down the Keystone Pipeline or undoing things Donald Trump had done. That's politics. But they have power here. They have a filibuster in the Senate. They have a strong voice in the House where the majority is very narrow. So they've got to decide, do we want to play the game and come to a deal or not? That's up to them. I can play it either way. I told them last time, you want to do a deal, we'll do a CR. And it was, well, you can't pass a CR. So you want to bet? And they did, and they lost. And that put them in a really bad spot. So we are better off as a country if we work together. We will have a better product if we work together. But I can't make everybody around the table be a grown-up. So they've got to decide.
And what's the strategy to get these bills as conservative as possible?
I'd say they are as conservative as possible. Listen to the Democrats. I mean, there's 10 of them that by the end of this week we'll have out of committee. If we hadn't lost last week, we'd had all 12 out. Other than the places where President Trump asked for increases, which is defense, homeland, and Milcon VA, every other bill cuts money. Every other bill has conservative priorities. Now, will it look like that at the end of a negotiation? No, it'll change. It'll move toward the Democrats if they want to have a deal. But, again, these are very conservative bills by any reckoning.
Thanks so much,
Sure.
sir. I'll let you get to breakfast.
Thank you. They're being left.
Okay, so looking live there inside the U.S. Capitol building as we get ready for this GOP press conference that will start at 10 a.m. Of course, the senator talking about continuing resolutions and that kind of thing, getting asked questions from the press, but a few mic drops there for President Trump by the senator. So it was great to see that at 9:08 Tuesday, July 22nd. So here's what's on tap for the day as we're taking this live look as senators and representatives walk by the camera position there. Again, at 10 a.m., there's a House GOP press conference. At 11 this morning, President Trump will greet the president of the Republic of the Philippines, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. So at about 11:15 after that greeting, what we are accustomed to seeing inside the Oval Office, the two world leaders meet, and then, of course, there's a Q&A with some reporters. So we'll have all of that this morning. Tonight, we also know that the president will participate in a reception with Republican members of Congress from the East Room. Let's go to Marjorie Taylor Greene right now.
I heard you say that.
Yes, I put it out on my social media. I'm not voting for September 30th CR. That is not what this majority should be about. Under Speaker Johnson's leadership, we have had to vote on CR after CR after CR. I've only voted on one because President Trump asked me to, and that was earlier this year. But we have had the entire year to get our appropriations done and actually do our budget, our government funding. And it is an absolute failure to ask us to vote on a September 30th CR. And I'm not doing it. And if anyone doubts that I will hold my vote, then they need to look at the fact that I was the only Republican that was a no vote on the rule last week. And I voted no on the Genius Act because it opened a backdoor to a central bank digital currency. It's up to Speaker Johnson to get our appropriations done, and that's what this conference meeting needs to be about, and the American people deserve that.
And you're backing Massey's discharge petition when it comes
I've co-sponsored it. I think I was the first or second co-sponsor, and yes, signed the discharge petition.
I was wondering if
I've got to go. I'm sorry. I've got to go to.
What happened to the
I've
rules
got to
committee?
go to
Thoughts on
conference.
it?
I gotta go.
And this is exactly why we call it RSBN Live. We're live right now there in Washington, D.C. You can see our feed that we're getting from the Capitol building. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia stopping by, talking about this continuing resolution vote that will be on September 30th. This is pretty fresh information right here on the network, as we've been looking at a lot of other stories, but now this is a story being brought up right before us at this point, even on a few searches of the continuing resolution and September 30th and all that. I'm doing some research. There's not a lot of information out there on specifically that. And since I'm not boots on the ground in Washington right now, you don't have that information, but we will get it as we see right now live here at the network. Speaking of that, at 10 o'clock, again, let's try and review this one more time. At 10 this morning, the GOP House will have a press conference. We'll bring that to you live. Then at 11 this morning, the president will greet the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Then the two will have a meeting in the Oval Office, and then the reporters will ask questions like usually what we see happen there. And then at 7 o'clock tonight, the president participates in a reception with Republican members of Congress in the East Room of the White House. We'll also have another programming note here for you as we have more live coverage a little later today as well. At 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock live, there will be a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing. Robert McNeely will have that coverage as we're looking live now at the U.S. Capitol building from the outside and from the inside. Then we'll shift from Capitol Hill over to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on the next live stream for President Trump, which that will start at about 10, well, that'll be about 10:30 Eastern will be when we start our next live stream. So right now we're going to carry this all the way through the GOP press conference, and then when that wraps up, we'll be starting a new stream to get us into around the 11 o'clock hour when President Trump greets the Philippine president. So we'll go over a number of news topics that we're following here as well on the network. As you guys can imagine, a lot going on right now. Let's go directly to We were going to go directly to Carolyn Levitt from yesterday within that 24/7 news cycle, but if we can pull up the somewhat of developing news at this hour. Director, if we can go to the Pam Bondi post from X about the Epstein case. Meantime, at this hour, in a statement from Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche regarding the Epstein case, Todd Blanche has said the following. This Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead. The joint statement by the DOJ and FBI of July 6 remains as accurate today as it was when it was written, namely that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. This X post from this morning. President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Therefore, at the direction of Attorney General Bondi, I have communicated with counsel for Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now. That's some developing news from Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche from this morning in regards to the Epstein case. We're going to get to Carolyn Levitt from yesterday's press gaggle. If you didn't catch it, we're going to go to that. We have a number of other videos to get to as well. And we're also going to talk about the Tulsi Gabbard investigation when it comes to her Department of National Intelligence investigation into Barack Obama and others as we continue to cover and monitor the news here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Before we go and do that, let's tell you about a few great sponsors here. Of course, if you've been frustrated with long pharmacy lines, insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's always a better way. And that's with All Family Pharmacy, changing how people get their medications. No insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. They carry the essentials: NAD+, methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and over 200 more medications. It's perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter, or all of the above. And guess what? Every order includes the doctor's prescription. So no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple. Quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. So all you have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN10 promo code for 10% off. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10. Let's shift over to callsheet.com/RSBN. You can go to that website, or you can download their app if you're looking to bet or trade or check out some polls out there. When it comes to all sorts of topics, pretty much name a topic, it's on callsheet.com. Let's go with a few generals, right? Science, technology, sports, weather, medicine, faith, politics. Did I say politics? I just said a lot of words. The point is, you can get it all right there at callsheet.com/RSBN and use that /RSBN there, but also you can get the app that will help you out, and you can use the QR code right there to get you to that website, callsheet.com/RSBN, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Okay. Before we get to some of the 24/7 news cycle elements from just yesterday, as you take that live look onto Capitol Hill there, we're of course also tracking any new developments from the U.S. Department of National Intelligence. That graphic that we've been putting up a lot recently from the director, Tulsi Gabbard, is providing key evidence to the DOJ and FBI in regards to details into how in 2016, Director Gabbard says intelligence was politicized and weaponized by the most powerful people in the Obama administration to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, subverting the will of the American people and undermining our democratic republic. So Director Gabbard has the receipts. She says for months preceding the 2016 election, the intelligence community shared a consensus review or a consensus view. Russia lacked the intent and capability to hack U.S. elections. But weeks after President Trump's historic 2016 victory defeating Hillary Clinton, everything changed. Now, you can check these details out and documents on X at DNI Gabbard or dni.gov. Of course, you can follow our coverage on RSBN on Truth Social and X as well. And of course, right here live on the channel. So the director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, said these documents detail a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest levels of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and try to usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate. This betrayal concerns every American. The integrity of our democratic republic demands that every person involved be investigated and brought to justice to prevent this from ever happening again. Director Gabbard is providing all documents to the Department of Justice to deliver the following: accountability that President Trump, his family, and the American people deserve. That from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, as we continue to follow that story. Also, if you're just joining us, we just spoke about Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who just released information. The 30,000-foot view of that X post that we just read to you verbatim is that the DOJ is going to talk with Ghislaine Maxwell about any information when it comes to the Epstein case. Those aren't my words, those are the words from the AG Pam Bondi. So if you want to check out that post, which we just talked about here, you can always go to X and just read that for yourself. We'll most likely go over that again in just a bit. This is on the heels of the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, of course, a national treasure, saying, quote, "There must be justice for the acts of sedition and criminal conspiracy waged against the deep state, waged by the deep state against President Trump and the United States." So what we'll do is, within this time frame, we have about, I think it's about 40 plus minutes yet, as we await any senators or congressmen to stop there for just live interviews. If you just joined us, MTG stopped by. We had senators stop by talking about a continuing resolution, a vote on September 30th. We're learning more information right now as we speak about it. We will be able to go to within the 24/7 news cycle. Yesterday, if you missed our interview with Carla Sands and T.S. Dixon talking about all of these investigations and what's going on and getting their 30,000-foot view, we may be able to go to those interviews here within the hour as we await this GOP press conference, which is at 10 a.m. After that press conference, we'll start up a new live stream for you, and then it'll be all about President Trump's visit with the Philippine president, who will be there today, and that's scheduled for about 11 a.m. So we'll be live prior to that on a different stream. So again, all of you that are streaming in live right now, thank you so much for doing so. My name is Matthew Alvarez. It's 9:20 on the East Coast, and if you're waking up bright and early out there, 6:20 in the morning on the West Coast, and thank you guys in the Mountain Time Zone, Central Time Zone, all of us that are saying, you know what, we are on the right side of history and we want to win, and not just to win for win's sake, but to win to provide all of the basics of our country and keep them solidified here in this nation. Our freedoms, Constitution, all the good things that I love to repeat here at the network, because I'm not going to do rocket science when it comes to all this. We do dive into various things. We talked about weather modification the other day. We're looking into investigations and following and monitoring the coverage. But I'm not going to confuse anybody, and I don't want to talk about things that may be all up and down and sideways. I just want to always stick to the common sense reporting of faith, family, and freedom, and I always will. I always will. In Jesus' name, amen, right? All right, 9:21, Tuesday, July 22nd. Let's go to Carolyn Levitt from just yesterday as she spoke to the press outside of the White House. It was right after our coverage ended, but we still uploaded it. There's almost, I think, 100,000 views just on one of the sites from this. But if you missed it, here it is.
Caroline, good afternoon. Hey, children, are you? Good afternoon, children. It's good to see all of you. And yesterday, as you all know, we celebrated 6 months of the Trump administration. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you day in and day out here at the White House. 6 months, the most transparent administration in history, if I may add. And I know the president just wanted me to highlight his accomplishments over the past 6 months. As you all remember, because you all covered it on the campaign trail, the president really promised the American people many things. But at the top of that list was to defeat the Biden inflation crisis and to secure our border and our homeland. And I think you've all seen in 6 months' time, the president has delivered on those two core campaign promises. Inflation is now running at a 2.1% annual rate. You look at our southern border, look at the numbers. Just last month, 0 illegal aliens were released into our country. And then look at what the president has done on the world stage. He has ended wars like India and Pakistan. He continues to work aggressively to end the war in Russia and Ukraine. He completely obliterated Iran's nuclear sites. He has continued to hopefully negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza to end that conflict and release all of the hostages. We've seen many of the hostages released as a result of this president's efforts. And this president is working around the clock every day to deliver on the promises he made. You also look at some of the cultural issues, to abolish DEI from our federal government and our military, to effectively end men and women's sports, which is a huge common sense policy that the American people support. And then if you look at the president's strong executive orders that have effectively ended the chemical castration of young children in our country. Just today, Washington, D.C. Children's Hospital in this city has announced they are no longer going to be prescribing puberty blockers to minors. This is a huge win for America and our children. There's certainly more work to do, and the president is doing it right now, and he will continue for the next 3.5 years. But certainly we've accomplished so much in just 6 months, and I'm happy to take some questions. Go ahead.
Was the president serious, or was he joking this weekend when he said he might block a Washington Commanders stadium deal if they don't change their name?
The president was serious, and as part of the art of the deal, part of his negotiating skills, as you know, sports is one of the many passions of this president, and he wants to see the name of that team changed.
Why is he getting involved in that? Why does he see that as part of his purview?
I think you've seen the president gets involved in a lot of things that most presidents have not. He's a non-traditional president. He likes to see results on behalf of the American people. And if you actually poll this issue with sports fans across the country and even in this city, people actually do support the president's position on this and the name change. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline.
Michael, go ahead, and then Mary, you can go.
Thank you, Caroline. What's the White House's reaction to Senator Chuck Grassley today releasing the formerly classified Clinton annex showing that the Comey-led FBI failed to fully investigate Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server, also failed to really look into thumb drives with potential national security risks on them, and emails from President Obama?
It comes as no surprise, unfortunately, and I think that's why you've seen the FBI open up investigations into the individual you mentioned and some others as well.
Caroline. The president just ordered the FBI to release the full Epstein files, just get it all out there.
The president has said if the Department of Justice and the FBI want to move forward with releasing any further credible evidence, they should do so. As to why they have or have not or will, you should ask the FBI about that. Go ahead.
More information, Caroline.
It's up to the Attorney General.
Does the president have any message for the countries that are planning to attend the two-state solution conference taking place later this month?
I'm not quite sure he has a particular message for those countries. I think the president's message on this conflict we've seen in the Middle East taking place for far too long that has become quite brutal, especially in recent days. You've seen reports of more people dying. The president never likes to see that. He wants the killing to end, and he wants to negotiate a ceasefire in this region. He wants to see all of the hostages released from Gaza. That has been a top priority for this president. Within this 6 months, we have seen many of the hostages released, including the last living American hostage, Edon Alexander, which was a result of this administration's diplomatic efforts and approach to ending this conflict. And again, this is another conflict that the president inherited from the previous administration, who was so weak and incompetent, it led to so much chaos and death around the world, but this president is focused on solving it. Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you. So at 6 months, the president is also experiencing some pushback from members of his own MAGA base, especially on the matter of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Is the president satisfied that his own supporters are not heeding his call to let it go and to move on?
I know the president would reject that, Kelly. In fact, he cited over the weekend some polls showing that his approval rating with the Republican Party is actually at an all-time high. He's polling 90 to 95% amongst Republicans right now. That's higher than any Republican president or any leader of this party ever. The president is the creator and the leader of the Make America Great Again movement. It's his baby that he made, and he knows what his supporters want. It's transparency, and he has given them that on all accounts when it comes to everything this administration has done, especially when it just comes to the president himself, taking questions from all of you and the press corps on a near daily basis, multiple times a week. No question is off limits here at this White House, not just for the president, but myself as well. Kelly. Again, as I just answered, the president has told the attorney general and the FBI director to release any credible evidence that they find, and he also signaled to them over the weekend to move forward with unsealing the grand jury documents that were under seal by various judges across the country, and I believe the attorney general has taken the proper legal action to do that. Kelly.
You mentioned there also Israel seen stepping up some attacks in Gaza. Has the president expressed his frustration with Netanyahu, and how does this impact the ceasefire negotiation?
Well, look, the president enjoys a good working relationship with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and stays in frequent communication with him. He was caught off guard by the bombing in Syria and also the bombing of a Catholic church in Gaza, which, as you know, I addressed at my briefing last week. And in both accounts, the president quickly called the prime minister to rectify those situations. And we saw Secretary Rubio intervene when it came to Syria. We saw a de-escalation there. And as for the bombing of the Catholic church in Gaza, the prime minister did put out a statement saying this was an accident and they deeply regretted that action on behalf of the state of Israel, following his conversation with the president. Jordan.
The White House has taken a position on Maria Salazar's work visa bill, and ideally, what does the president want to see with a work program for aliens?
Again, I know you asked me about that last week, and I regret to inform you my answer remains the same. I don't think that's the focus of the White House right now in terms of legislative priorities, but certainly I promise you we'll get a readout on the bill. But as I reiterated to you before, the president does not support amnesty for illegal alien criminals, and I think the tragic circumstance that took place in New York City this past weekend underscores the priority of this president to secure our homeland and to deport illegal alien criminals and public safety threats from our country and our community. That's this president's priority right now.
That in the last several months, Americans have become more hesitant about President Trump's different ways that he's been conducting immigration. They think that it's going too far. Is the White House going to limit any ways that it is enforcing immigration across the country?
I think the Trump administration is going to continue to focus on removing public safety threats and illegal alien criminals from sanctuary cities. The president himself has said that's the priority for him in this administration, which the vast majority of Americans do still support, removing illegal, heinous criminals from their communities. And ultimately, the best poll that was ever taken was on November 5th, when nearly 80 million Americans voted to re-elect this president, largely because of his immigration policies. And we've seen they've been a resounding success. Again, 0 illegal aliens were released into the country last month. That's a good thing for all of us standing here and for Americans across the country.
There are reports that President Trump or that FBI agents going through the Epstein files were told to flag President Trump's name if it came up. Is that something the president was aware of, or something that he directed those agents or the Department of Justice to do?
I don't believe that's something the White House was aware of. You'd have to ask the FBI.
Is President Trump satisfied with how aid's being distributed in Gaza right now?
Look, the president is the reason that aid is even being distributed in Gaza at all. He wants to see this done in a peaceful manner where more lives are not being lost. He hated seeing the pictures of starvation of women and children desperately needing that aid, which is why this administration came to a creative solution to bring that aid into the region. And we want to make sure that aid is delivered to people in need, but certainly does not end up in the hands of terrorists. I think both things can be done at the same time. Look, it's a very difficult and complicated situation, again, that the president inherited because of the weakness of the last administration. And I think he should be applauded and the administration should be applauded for coming up with a creative solution to get aid into the region. The president wants to see peace, and he's been pretty clear about that, and our national security team continues to work on this every single day, but of course it's a very complicated situation.
Is the president over the weekend? Commerce Secretary had some pretty tough words for the Fed.
Hi, Mark. You're sneaking in back there.
I know. I wish I was taller. The Commerce Secretary over the weekend had some pretty tough words for the Federal Reserve Chairman. The White House has kind of sent some mixed messages whether or not his job is safe or not. Will Powell be allowed to finish his term as Federal Reserve Chairman or not?
Look, Mark, the president talked about this and answered these questions for you pretty extensively in the Oval Office. He has no plans to fire the Fed chair, but he has been very transparent in expressing his displeasure with Jerome Powell's management of the Fed and also his policies. And the president is right, by the way. He's been saying this for a while, but finally, economists and experts are agreeing with him that Jerome Powell should cut interest rates. If you look at our country, by every economic metric right now, it is booming. Look at the trillions of dollars the president has brought in foreign investments. Look at inflation, like I said, continues to go down. He's basically defeated it in just 6 months. If you look at the massive deregulatory campaign this administration has lost, look at the cost of goods. The cost of oil is down 20%. We've added 700,000 jobs to the economy in just 6 months. The manufacturing sector is ticking up again. By all accounts, this is a good economy. In fact, the Wall Street Journal, wherever you are, did in fact give credit for that today. They said that the economy has its swagger back, which is one way to put it. But I think that it's true. And I think that the Fed chair needs to lower interest rates. The president is right about that. And finally, people are catching up to the president on that. Brian, go ahead.
Has the president shared his opinion on additional process privatizing the TSA?
Privatizing the TSA. I haven't heard him talk about that, but perhaps it would be a good idea. I think we can all agree there's a little bit of bureaucracy when you move through an airport, but I'll get with the president, or perhaps you can ask him yourself next time, Brian. Go ahead.
The Congressional Budget Office released updated estimates today about the Big Beautiful Bill now that it's law. They estimate that the deficit will grow by $3.4 trillion by 2034, and that 10 million people will lose health coverage by 2034. I know you guys are critical of the CBO. More broadly speaking, is there any concern from the administration that this bill, now that it's law, will increase the deficit in any way or remove anyone from health insurance that they have for legal citizens?
No, look, this bill was a great bill for the American people. It was the largest tax cut for middle and working class families in our nation's history. And the president wants to see this country get our fiscal house in order. That's why this was a fiscally responsible bill, one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation for its size that has ever crossed through Capitol Hill. And the president wants to cut our deficit. That's why he's effectively using tariffs to bring more revenue into the United States to ultimately pay down our debt that has been created by presidents on both sides of the aisles for many, many decades.
There are 11 days until that August 1st trade tariffs deadline. What can we expect between now and August 1st in terms of potential announcements of trade deals with any countries?
Look, I can tell you the trade team and the president himself continue to be very engaged with countries around the world when it comes to our trade agreements. You have the president of the Philippines who will be visiting the White House tomorrow. Perhaps this will be a topic of discussion. You will all see for yourselves in the Oval Office, as you always do. But the August 1st deadline is just really the start date for when the United States of America will begin collecting this revenue from all of the countries around the world who the president has sent these letters to. You could see some more letters before August 1st, John. You could have some more trade announcements as well. I can tell you the President, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, Ambassador Greer all continue to be in constant communication with our trading partners. Yes, sure.
Thank you. How did you see the tariff negotiations with South Korea being fundamentally different with those with Japan?
I can check in on the status of the South Korean trade talks for you.
Special envoy is visiting Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah. Does President Trump still believe diplomacy?
Who is visiting?
Tom Barak.
Okay.
Special envoy Tom Barak is visiting Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah. Does President Trump still believe diplomacy can work with Lebanon while Hezbollah keeps its weapons?
Look, I think the president wants to see diplomacy work with Lebanon and all of the partners in the Middle East. You know, the president has been very clear when it comes to his priorities for Iran. He obliterated their nuclear capability, and I understand that the administration continues to be open to talks with Iran if we deem them necessary. As for Tom Barak's trip, I know the president supports him and he's doing a great job in Syria.
Caroline. According to the House Judiciary Committee, the Biden administration sent nearly $1 billion in taxpayer funds to the left organization in Israel to oppose Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What is the White House reaction?
Well, it's not a surprise to me that the previous administration sent billions of dollars overseas for useless priorities that don't advance America's interests. We've seen a lot of that, which is why this administration has been very focused on clawing a lot of that money back and making sure the American government is spending American tax dollars on America's priorities. Thank you, guys. I'll see you later.
White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt speaking to the press yesterday at about 3 o'clock Eastern time, so still within that 24/7 news cycle. Wanted to bring that to you here as we're looking live at the U.S. Capitol building, of course, on Capitol Hill, and then within the interior of the building there, as earlier MTG stopped by to talk to us a little bit, and then others are stopping by as well. So we'll monitor that. This is all as we await the GOP press conference, which is slated for about 23 minutes from now. This, as well, the president meeting with the Philippine president at 11 a.m. Excuse me. And then we'll have a new live stream to start that coverage a bit later. So a lot going on today, a lot going on. Let's start with a 30,000-foot view, very, very 30,000-foot view on Syria. Because my focus has been, of course, the United States and the president and specifics here. But as a news person, you're scrolling through X or True Social, or you're reading articles and researching and seeing some of the things that are happening in that country are very difficult to watch. Some videos I don't watch because why, but there's just a lot going on there. So I know that our country has Tom Barak, speaking with people there, but I'm not going to get too much more into that specific topic because I'll be very transparent with you. I have to know all the specifics before I kind of dive into something. But just from that, just as a person side of me, in the sense of just a professional angle, I'm just talking about, I just can't believe some of those videos that are happening and what's happening there in Syria right now. Also, Carolyn Leavitt, we'll see if there's going to be any kind of press conference this week with the White House. Most likely there will be. Usually there's at least one a week. We've been averaging that, it seems. So at least one a week. And then, of course, here, a press conference from the GOP in about 21 minutes from now. Just to review, President Trump will be meeting with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines at 11 a.m. That'll be a new live stream that will start after this GOP press conference. At about 11:15 this morning, our president, and the president of the Philippines will be meeting in the Oval Office. We'll have that live coverage as well. Be interesting to hear what kind of questions are posed and that kind of thing. Obviously, trade is a big thing when it comes to the two nations, but outside of that, there's a lot going on in the 24/7 news cycle. If you're just joining us right now, we already covered a lot of those stories. We're going to dip back into that here in just a second. But let's continue on with our programming notes as we await this coming up here in a second. Before we actually do all of that, we do have to say angelpaste.com, a great sponsor here at Right Side, of course. Use that RSBN promo code. A lot of great products there, the Miracle Cream and other products. You'll get that percentage off using the RSBN promo code. They're out of Spring, Texas. Great Patriots there. Great sponsor right here at Right Side. MyPillow is also a great sponsor, a longtime sponsor here, mypillow.com/RSBN. If you'd like to use the RSBN promo code, the free shipping, that's always fun. Free shipping, saving money, but also more than 2,000 products there for you at mypillow.com. So you can check that all out and, support MyPillow. All right, so 9:41, Tuesday, July 22nd. Let's continue on with the programming schedule, and then there are a couple new videos, one from the Department of Defense and one of the other departments that we'll show you in just a second. But after the Oval Office meeting with President Trump and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines, later today at 2 o'clock, we'll cover a Senate Judiciary hearing regarding what's called Biden's border betrayal. It's titled Criminal Aliens in America. That's going to be at about 2 o'clock. Tonight, we do know that it says closed press on the public schedule for the president for him participating in a reception with Republican members of Congress. It's in the East Room. Last time this happened, though, when it said closed press, I did see some live footage. Maybe there's a decision that's made at the last second. Who knows? But that's happening tonight at 7. A lot going on. So just keeping you updated as it's 9:42 Tuesday, July 22nd. Before we get to those two videos, one from the Customs Border Protection and the DOD, I do want to bring you up to speed on a few things in the sense of President Trump's Truth Social posts and also the latest news that we're following. Let's go to that post that we have. I believe we have a graphic of it. President Trump saying Obama himself manufactured the Russia hoax. Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and numerous others participated in this. The crime of the century, the president says. Irrefutable evidence, a major threat to our country. That's from President Trump's Truth Social pretty recently. You see it right there on the screen. That was at July 21st, so yesterday at about 8:11 at night. So we're going to talk about that as well when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard and being the director of the National Intelligence and what's going on there and monitoring the latest. Before we get to that, let's go to this. In a statement from Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche regarding the Epstein case, we do have that post as well. Todd Blanche has said the following: "This Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths, nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead. The joint statement by the DOJ and FBI of July 6 remains as accurate today as it was when it was written. Namely that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, continuing on saying, and this being highlighted by the Attorney General Pam Bondi, that President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Therefore, at the direction of AG Bondi, I have communicated with counsel for Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. Todd Blanche continues on saying, I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now, end quote. That from within the past hour and a half on X. Also, we're tracking any new developments from the U.S. Department of National Intelligence as Director Tulsi Gabbard is providing key evidence to the DOJ and FBI in regards to details into how in 2016 Director Gabbard says intelligence was politicized and weaponized by the most powerful people in the Obama administration to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, subverting the will of the American people and undermining our democratic republic. So we do have a graphic, I think, Director, on this, specifically from Tulsi Gabbard, that we've been using for the past few days because this is some kind of the news that, as they say in the media, that has legs. That's what over the years has nothing to do with anything other than that there's a story that has more than just, hey, it's 15 minutes of okay, talk about it and no longer. This story here is definitely something that we're following, just like the AG Pam Bondi talking about the Epstein case. But outside of all of these, of course, if you've been monitoring coverage, we've been talking about the great wins by President Trump over the past 6 months as well. Director Gabbard has the receipts. You see right here the information. For months preceding the 2016 election, the intelligence community shared a consensus view. Russia lacked the intent and capability to hack U.S. elections. But weeks after President Trump's historic 2016 victory defeating Hillary Clinton, everything changed. You can see those details on the DNI Gabbard, which is at DNI Gabbard on X, or go to dni.gov. So we're told that the director says that these documents detail a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest levels of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and to try to usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate. Gabbard continues by saying this betrayal concerns every American. The integrity of our democratic republic demands that every person involved be investigated and brought to justice to prevent this from ever happening again. Director Gabbard is providing all documents to DOJ to deliver the accountability that President Trump, his family, and the American people deserve, end quote. Those are two big stories, right? And that's what we're covering here. We're monitoring what happens there. We'll deliver any information, or if we see that there's a press conference that all of a sudden pops up, which has happened in the past. So just to close up that part of this segment, we know that White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller said, quote, on Truth Social, that there must be justice for the acts of sedition and criminal conspiracy waged by the deep state against President Trump and the United States. All right, so 9:47 this morning, you could see the live picture there from the U.S. Capitol on Capitol Hill, live from inside the building as well. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene stopped by earlier. This is as we await the GOP leadership press conference, which is scheduled for 10 this morning. Following that, on a separate live stream, we'll be starting a new live stream right after the press conference is over in regards to President Trump when he greets the president of the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And we'll have that entire greet and, of course, the meet as well as an MEET when it comes to the Oval Office. When there is the meeting there, we'll have that live. And then, of course, the Q&A that we'll hear between hopefully mainly conservative media will get their questions in, but the fake news is there too, unfortunately. But that's part of First Amendment right and the freedom of press. At 2 o'clock, we'll cover a Senate judiciary hearing regarding Biden's border betrayal, titled Criminal Aliens in America. And then again, at 7 o'clock, the president participates in a reception with Republican members of Congress from the East Room. If you're just joining us now, we just played the Carolyn Leavitt press conference that happened yesterday. And when I say press conference, it was just right outside of the White House at about 3 o'clock yesterday. That video is also uploaded to all of our channels if you'd like to check it out. And we're doing all of this, obviously, because if you're watching Right Side or if you're watching conservative media, you want to be informed on the latest of what's going on. And we're glad to bring it to you here at Right Side. So let's go to a number of sponsors, and then we'll go to a couple new videos that we've seen from the Department of Defense and also from the Customs Border Protection Agency as well. So if you've been feeling frustrated with long pharmacy lines, insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. All Family Pharmacy is actually changing how people get their medications. So no insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. They carry the essentials: NAD+, methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and more than 200 medications. It's perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And they also include the doctor's prescription, so no extra steps, no hassle. It's fairly simple. Quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can use that RSBN 10 promo code to save 10% on your order. Again, it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Thanks so much for joining us as it's 9:50 on the East Coast, 6:50 out there on the West Coast, and everybody else within that Central and Mountain Time Zone. Hello to the entire country this morning as we continue to bring you live coverage here on RSBN Live. Let's also go to the following thing. If you'd like to donate to Right Side as we continue to grow and expand here at the network, all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. You can donate there. Also, you can go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. And if you would like to, we're hearing that some people want to send checks and cash. Well, you can do so at a P.O. Box. That's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you guys so much for supporting Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so 9:51. Let's go to the Department of Defense. There was this video yesterday that was posted by the Secretary of Defense and also the DoD Rapid Response. And you might want to buckle your seatbelts on this one. Take a look.
Recognize the pilots who flew those bombers, who flew those fighters, who flew those refuelers. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. The Marines that I see in the Indo-Pacific, are the eyes of deterrence. It is on your shoulders that we stand, and it is to you that I am committed each and every day to simply have your back. That's all I ever wanted when I was a young leader. I wanted leaders that gave me a clear mission, the resources to do it, the training to do it, so we were ready, and then had our back when we had to make difficult decisions at difficult places where politicians in air-conditioned offices would never understand. That's our pledge to you. That's what President Trump always wants me to communicate to you, and that's what we will follow through on.
That from, of course, the Department of Defense just yesterday. Also, the Customs Border Protection also released a video. We'll get to that in just a second as we are awaiting this GOP leadership press conference on Capitol Hill. That starts in about 8 minutes from now. I've covered probably 5 or 6 of these in the past 6 months, and they either start at 10, 10:15, or 10:30. So I'm not sure which one it will be. We're live for it. Thanks so much for joining us on this Tuesday, July 22nd. What you're looking at live there is within the halls, of course, and some areas of the basement, I guess, of the U.S. Capitol building. As senators, as congressmen and women are walking by, sometimes they stop and speak with the reporters. We went to a couple people live earlier, including Marjorie Taylor Greene. You see the live picture there on the bottom right of your screen. That's for the GOP press conference that's about to happen. In the meantime, let's go to that Customs Border Protection video that is within this 24/7 news cycle.
On July 9, 2025, United States Border Patrol agents here at the Santa Teresa station were able to rescue a female from Mexico that she fell over the fence as she was trying to make her way illegally into the country. She said that she was pushed by these teenage smugglers once she became hesitant on coming off the fence. She was pushed over the edge of the fence. Luckily for her, she was rescued on time. She was transported to a near hospital to receive further medical assistance. But these things happen very often. Multiple kids here in the water area are being lured into the smuggling rings by the transnational criminal organizations, posting on social media saying that they can earn a lot of cash, when the reality is they're just becoming entangled in this network of human smuggling. The reality is they're going to be placing other individuals in dangerous positions. The advice is simple from United States Border Patrol. If you're thinking about crossing the border illegally, don't do it. If you're thinking about earning cash through these cartels, don't do it. It is dangerous. They're going to place your life, they're going to place other lives in danger, and at the end of the day, you're going to just be arrested and end up in jail.
A shout out to all of our U.S. Customs Border Protection agents, also the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Marines, the Army, the Space Force. Might as well go with everybody, because what we're seeing is that it is taking a military force, the United States of America, and Customs Border Protection, along with the DHS and National Guard, and on and on and on, when it comes to that southern border situation where it's now sealed, of course, and very few people are getting across. But those are the kind of stories that are happening there along the southern border. So, all right, we are about 5 minutes or so from the GOP press conference. If it is delayed at all, we may be able to replay one interview from yesterday within that 24/7 news cycle, but we'll wait a little bit before we press that button. We will be live again right after the press conference, as well as we then switch our attention from from Capitol Hill to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as the president greets the Philippine president, Marcos Jr. today. We'll have that live as well. So as soon as we see the GOP press conference start, we'll take you there. In the meantime, speaking of the president will travel to Scotland this Friday and return to the States on Tuesday, July 29th. In September, we're told from Carolyn Levitt that the commander-in-chief will travel to England on September 17th through the 19th. So those are two foreign trips that we have been told from the press secretary. That was I believe during her most recent press conference from the White House there. So we'll be following those foreign trips as well. Let's go back to President Trump speaking on Truth Social pretty recently, saying Obama himself manufactured the Russia hoax. Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and numerous others participated in this. The crime of the century, President Trump calls it right there in all caps. Irrefutable evidence, a major threat to our country. 3 exclamation points from President Donald J. Trump. This on the heels of all of the news that's going on, and it's just Tuesday, July 22nd. You know, sometimes in the summertime, it could be a slower summer. It's really hot outside. You're inside in the AC. If you're not on vacation, it's just kind of run-of-the-mill, not a lot of sports going on. But holy smokes, there's a lot of entertainment going on, or at least are concerns that are happening throughout this country. If you want to watch a drama, this is real life stuff. We're talking about good versus evil. We're talking about a hero in President Trump as we move forward and want to see more wins and want to see all of these investigations that are happening, what the outcome of these investigations are. This is quite the time to cover the White House, especially in this 24/7 fast-paced news cycle. A lot going on, a lot of people talking out there, but you know what? The common sense of it is God, family, and country. And that's what we're wanting to have with freedom in this nation. We always bring it back to the common sense aspect of it, because things can be confusing, things can be loud, things can be noisy. But what's the base? What's the baseline? What's the anchor? What's the thing that really keeps someone in that position of being solid or stable within their thought processes of what's going on in this country? God, family, country, pretty much, right? And having leaders that are doing the right thing. So that's why with the news about the DNI investigation into 2016, you know, has been a relief for a lot of Americans, because we want to see our country be fully saved and rescued moving forward. We're seeing all these great things happen, but we want to see more. And that's for our safety, for our freedoms. You know, it's the basics. It is 9:59, so we're 1 minute away from the scheduled press conference there on Capitol Hill. In the meantime, let's go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you've been frustrated with those long pharmacy lines or insurance headaches or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's actually a better way. All Family Pharmacy is changing how people get their medications. So no insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. So they carry the essentials. They carry things like NAD+, or methylene blue, or hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and ivermectin, of course, and more than 200 other medications. So it's perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet, or all of the above with treatments that matter. And guess what? Every order includes the doctor's prescription, so no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple. Quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. So it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can use that RSBN 10 promo code for that percentage off. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, RSBN 10. Thanks so much to all of our sponsors, including callshe.com. You can download the app, you can go to the website, you can go to the QR code, and check out all the different questions that people are talking about on there. All sorts of topics, everything you can think of pretty much, right? It's on callshe.com, and people are betting, trading. Money is on the line for the people that are partaking in this. This is more than 1 million people are on Callshe, and that's growing, and it's a great sponsor. Callshe.com/RSBN, as it is now 1 minute after 10 this morning on this Tuesday, July 22nd. You see the press is there in the GOP conference room. So as soon as we see members of the House GOP leadership walk to that podium, we'll bring you there live. You're looking in the bottom right corner of your screen, also on Capitol Hill, as various senators and Congress people walk by, and they sometimes step to the cameras and go through a mini quick interview process. And if that happens, we'll bring you there live. That happened a bit earlier in the broadcast. We started our broadcast at 9 this morning on the East Coast, and We heard from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other senators there as well, talking about this continuing resolution now that there's some vote that's supposed to happen on September 30th. MTG saying she's not going to be for that CR. There's also questions of when is Congress going on vacation, what's going on with summer break, that kind of thing. President Trump, you saw on Truth Social the other day, saying we should delay that summer vacation. But I'm going to stop there because I don't know every specific from the point of what's happening now in D.C. because I'm right here in Alabama. But what we're doing is still covering everything that we see live here on the network. So 10:02 Eastern Time. Thanks again for joining us. The press ready to go for this press conference. This is a GOP leadership press conference. And if you're just joining us, earlier we spoke about a number of things, including the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and the information, the evidence, the receipts that she's bringing to the DOJ and the FBI in regards to Barack Obama in 2016 and all of that story. We also spoke about the Epstein case because Pam Bondi, about an hour ago, posted something from the deputy of the AG there, Todd Blanche, saying that they're going to speak with and they're in touch with counsel for Ghislaine Maxwell in regards to the Epstein case. It's all news that's happening this morning. Let's go there live right now in Washington.
Right, for 7 legislative days. And unless we stay through Friday, which wasn't even on the calendar, we can't get it to ripen and collect signatures before recess.
Were you surprised at all to see the Rules Committee kind of come to a standstill last night over this issue? I mean, you used to be on the Rules Committee, and obviously you've been caring a lot about transparency in the Epstein case. Was that surprising at all?
No, it's not surprising to me. I don't think this issue is going away over August. I think that was the admonition of our speaker in there, was just sort of stick your head in the sand, let the administration maybe dissipate this by dribbling some stuff out. I mean, I'm heavily paraphrasing, but work. I mean, people have wanted these files for years. And then, the president's staff, administration, his own children, his vice president have promised that these files would come out. And now we're being told it's a hoax. It doesn't wash. And whether it's Republican, Democrat, or Independent, across all those categories, it's only like 5 or 6% who don't want the files out.
Do you think the president's at risk of losing his base over this issue?
Well, you don't lose your base over one single thing, but he's eroding his base. More importantly, if we don't take the right side of this issue, it's going to cost us votes in the midterms. People are becoming despondent, they're apathetic. Why would they go vote? If they gave us the House, the Senate, and the White House, and the transparency and justice they were promised doesn't happen, why should they vote in the midterms? And I think it could be a real problem for us. That's why it would behoove the Speaker to bring this to the floor. It would be in the best interest of this institution. Just vote this out. Give it to the Senate and let them do their thing.
Do you think the president is losing trust with members like you who want more transparency?
I wouldn't say he's lost trust. I'm sort of I would say, a different category. The president's consultants have spent $1.8 million against me, and I got a new tweet last night, or a Truth Social last night, and clearly that was because I've done this Epstein file. Like, dogs don't bark at parked cars, right? This bill is moving. This is coming to a vote. We've got enough Republican co-sponsors of the bill, twice as many as we need right now, such that when they sign it, and every Democrat signs this, we're going to force a vote on it. It's not going away.
On appropriations at all, is there any chance you would back a CR if that's what they come to?
Here's the problem with the CR. We're talking about a CR of a CR that is a continuation of Biden spending. We're talking about a CR that has the things that we just took out using rescissions. Why would we fund these things that we rescinded? It's ridiculous. The Appropriations Committee could be here over August and bang out all these bills. There's no reason with us controlling the White House, the Senate, and the House to not do single appropriations bills.
Do you think that the Senate in order to pass them would have to get Democratic support? You think that would water down any bills and make it hard to pass over here?
I think you could get support for individual bills. Like if you take a big giant omnibus that's not a CR, it's written solely by Republicans. Of course, that's going to be hard to get 60 votes in the Senate. But send the DOD approach over there and tell them this is it. You either vote for this or the DOD's not funded. What that presents is not a showdown, but within silos it would give you sort of a battle that you could win instead of all-inclusive, either all the government's funded or not.
Just to be clear, are you opposed to any kind of CR in the fall in September?
I'm opposed to a CR. I mean, it's hard to say I'd be opposed to anything you can imagine at this point. But if it's a straight-up CR without an across-the-board cut, look, I've endorsed the idea of a CR with a 1% cut. That's what we actually are supposed to do. That was written into law when Kevin McCarthy was the speaker. But this speaker found a clever way out of it, he thinks. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, a bunch of garbage spoken there in regards to what President Trump, when he's saying it's a hoax, he's not talking about all of the things that Epstein was charged with or what Ghislaine Maxwell is charged with. It's this new stuff that's all being brought out. Per President Trump's words, he said, I have asked the Justice Department to release all grand jury testimony with respect to Jeffrey Epstein, subject only to court approval. With that being said, and even if the court gave its full and unwavering approval, nothing will be good enough for the troublemakers and radical left lunatics making the request. It will always be more, more, more. And then President Trump says MAGA. He also said if there was a smoking gun on Epstein, why didn't the Dems, who controlled the files for 4 years and had Garland and Comey in charge, use it? Because they had nothing, the president says. On top of that, let's bring it down to specifically, once again, Director, if we can go to Pam Bondi's post from this morning, and its statement from the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche regarding the Epstein case. Todd Blanche has said the following. This Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths, nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead. I'm reading a statement here. I don't know if we could pull that up. The joint statement by the DOJ and the FBI of July 6 remains as accurate today as when it was written. Namely, that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. I'm reading from a statement again. This is from Pam Bondi from earlier. Also, she said this per Todd Blanche. Therefore, at the direction of the Attorney General, I have communicated with counsel of Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now. And of course, we've been covering the other story as well when it comes to the investigation into the 2016 hoax that happened when it comes to Barack Obama. All right, let's go to Washington, D.C. for this GOP leadership conference.
What's the new journalist's name? Kate. Welcome, Kate. Yeah, see? Well, good morning, everybody. So glad to have you here today. This weekend marked 6 months since President Donald Trump returned to the Oval Office, and boy, has it been historic. Together, we have secured the border, restored peace through strength, squashed inflation, supercharged our economy, and delivered on the one big, beautiful bill. America is safe, prosperous, and great again. But Democrats continue their dangerous rhetoric. That is endangering law enforcement agents. I mean, an officer gets shot by an illegal alien in New York. Do you think that's a coincidence? Because I don't. It's their policies. It's their rhetoric. You know, my question is, did their policies lead to this rhetoric and all this rhetoric lead to this attack? Ask yourself that. I'll let you be the judge of that. Do you think their policies and their rhetoric hurt law enforcement agents or help them? Just ponder on that for a minute. This week, House Republicans will return home for our annual work period. And during this work period, we are going to work with our members to take our message coast to coast, and we're going to make sure that we have the Democrats own their message, because we all know they like to weasel out of their message. And we're going to take our message from Long Island to the suburbs of Los Angeles. The American people will hear how the one big beautiful bill will benefit them. We are going to correct the truth with the other half of the truth, because all Democrats have right now is fear-mongering. They have no plan, no vision, and no leader. I'm planning to be in my district this week to speak with Michiganders, but I'm also going to be traveling with some of our frontline members from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. We will visit actual manufacturing facilities where the workers, the American taxpayer, will benefit from the one big beautiful bill, and we'll be having conversations with that. I'm sure along the way we're going to stop at a few restaurants, maybe get some takeout, where their staff or delivery drivers will enjoy the benefits of no tax on tips. The bottom line is this: the impact of the one big beautiful bill will be felt positively everywhere, and working families, their bottom lines will be increased. Imagine how Democrat district visits are going to go. That's if they stay in their own districts. But remind the Democrats voted against securing the border. Remember that? They said, Biden said, we can't do that. No, we just needed a president who actually could do that. So remind the Democrats that it's the Republicans who are actually unleashing American energy. You know, putting money back into our economy, making us energy independent again, expanding the child tax credit. And I hear all that fear-mongering about, the rural hospitals are going to shut down. We actually created a rural hospital fund that can actually, the monies go to these hospitals. They don't have all this bureaucracy in between. Wow, that's a solution for a change, but you won't hear the Democrats talk about that. Generational investments. We made generational investments in our national security. No tax on overtime, no tax on tips. Every single Democrat voted to kill millions of jobs. Give federal benefits to those who never should receive those benefits before. Remember, the Democrats are making sure that Medicaid is not there for the people who need it most by allowing the waste, the fraud, the abuse to actually continue and to give it to illegals over Americans who need it more than anything. And take those $1,000 of paychecks from hardworking Americans. Remember, they voted to increase every single working family's tax rate. I'm so sick and tired of hearing, oh my gosh, it's a tax rate for the rich. No, it's not. Think about this. This is a fact, and I'm curious if you've asked any of the Democrats this. They voted to raise a taxpayer's income who makes $48,000, which would be in the 12% tax bracket. They voted to raise the tax bracket from 12% to 25% on if you make $48,000. I don't know, any of you think $48,000, is that a tax break for the rich? A tax incentive for the rich? No, you're taking money from working class families. Make the Democrats own. Ask them why they voted for the biggest tax increase in history. Ask them why. I don't think these meetings are going to go very well. Now, I hope the Democrats are home and the local press will hold them accountable, and to explain why they voted to kill American jobs, especially when they're already somebody who voted no, but notice every Democrat takes the dough. It's ridiculous, and we will continue to bring these fallacies to life. We will continue to correct the truth with the other half of the truth, and the fear-mongering from the Democrats has got to stop. Now, to talk about this and the importance of the one big beautiful bill for people in her district with me is Congresswoman Jen Kiggins. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for including me this morning in your press conference. I'm Congresswoman Jen Kaggans, and I proudly represent Virginia's 2nd District, which is home to a large percent of veteran population. In the country, we have about 6% of our population who has served in our great military. And in my district, we have more than twice that, about 13%. So I'm here today to talk about the veteran perspective and the wins for the veteran community in the One Big Beautiful Bill. I am a veteran. I served as a Navy helicopter pilot for 10 years of my life. I am married to an F-18 pilot who served for 20 years. And I'm also very proudly a Navy mom to a future naval aviator. So the people in my district, we are regular, everyday Americans. We just put service to country first. And not only if you are a veteran, but if you work with the veteran community and the defense community in my district, the wins in the One Big Beautiful Bill are important to us. We are hardworking. We are business owners. We are small business owners. We are parents. We are moms and dads. We are people who care about community safety. So the wins in this One Big Beautiful Bill from the economy side, the extension of the tax breaks, the no tax on tips and overtime, the wins that we know our veterans will feel more in their bank accounts. We're used to living on fixed income like we did in the military. We know that each and every penny counts and how hard we have to work to earn our money. We want to keep more of our paychecks. We want our veterans and all Americans to feel like they have more in their pocketbooks. So those are the biggest wins for the veteran community. The border security piece is important because we care about community safety. And we know that every state is a border state, even Virginia. So we care about the people that are around our neighborhoods, that are around our kids' schools, that are watching our families. That community safety piece is important. And knowing that we have a secure border, knowing that we're not letting people from the terrorist watch list, that as veterans, we have concerns about who is in our country, who is here to do us harm. But I think most importantly, the biggest wins for a lot of us in the veteran community was that $150 billion Defense Plus up. So many of us joined and signed up to serve again in our great military for our great country because of the chaotic withdrawal in Afghanistan. We saw weakness on the world stage. We saw what it looks like when our country doesn't prioritize peace through strength. The world is a very dangerous place. And now as a military mom, really, I care about that issue. And so many people in my district, so many of our children are serving, so many of my neighbors and friends. So for me, that peace through strength piece is the most important piece. And we're seeing Republicans put our money where our mouth is and prioritize quality of life, quality of service initiatives for our military. We're seeing next generation strike fighter funding. We're seeing money for 16 more ships being built. There's $9 billion for quality of life, $29 billion for shipbuilding, $16 billion for shipyards and depot, which we know are in need of repair, $9 billion for air superiority. We need to prioritize this peace through strength part, and that's what this One Big Beautiful Bill does. During the Biden administration, we had defense spending at an all-time low. We know that in times of our greatest peace, defense spending is about 5 to 6%. President Trump has not only agreed to do that for our country and for our military, but also he's encouraging our allies to do that, and we're seeing them get on board with that too. So I can't just emphasize enough the importance of prioritizing defense spending and what this big, beautiful bill does for that. You know, as Republicans and as veterans who care about how much money we have, we also want to make sure that we are not wasting money. And the programs, the reforms that we've put in place for Medicaid is important. We know that we want to keep that program for people who need it the most. We have plenty of veterans who are disabled, who are Medicaid recipients. I want to make sure that program is there for them. So the reforms we put in place are so important. But it's certainly a privilege to be able to represent, again, a district that has one of the largest veteran populations. These are great wins for the American public, great wins for the veteran community, and I'm very proud to be a part of this effort. Thank you so much.
Great job, Jen. Over the weekend in New York City, an off-duty Customs and Border Protection officer was shot in the face during an attempted robbery by 2 illegal aliens. These 2 criminals were allowed into our country by the Biden administration, where they both have gone on to commit multiple crimes. Assault, kidnapping, larceny, and now attempted murder make up their rap sheet. Senseless, dangerous sanctuary policies put these criminals back on the streets after their numerous arrests, enabling them to wreak havoc on innocent Americans. The damage done by the Biden administration's deliberate open border policies cannot be understated. We are still feeling the consequences of it today. But President Trump, DH Secretary Noem, and Border Czar Tom Homan are turning the tide. in my state of Minnesota, ICE arrests of illegal aliens have doubled since President Trump took office. And while the local worthless media in my home state tries to spin that as a bad thing, the brave men and women of ICE are getting the worst of the worst illegal aliens off the streets of Minnesota and America, restoring safety and security to our communities. As these officers enforce the laws, they face an 830% increase in assaults. To the ICE agents risking their lives to keep us all safe, thank you. To the Border Patrol agents and custom officers securing our border, thank you. The One Big Beautiful Bill supports their efforts by giving them the tools they need to continue this critical work, including more ICE officers, more Border Patrol agents, more border wall, and more detention space. These resources strengthen and make permanent the great success that President Trump has already had securing the border and deporting criminal illegal aliens. The One Big Beautiful Bill delivers historic border security wins. It delivers historic border security wins, and we're all safer for it. With that, the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Whip. Well, it's been a very busy first 6 months working with the Trump administration to deliver critical wins for hardworking families across America, to deliver wins on those issues that we all ran on, the things we said we would do if we got a Republican White House, Republican Senate, and Republican House. And, of course, the One Big Beautiful Bill really is the epitome of so many of those victories, but that's not all we've done. The president has already signed or has on his desk 31 different bills that have been passed by the House and Senate on the desk of the president, almost all of which have been signed into law. After today, maybe all 31 will have been signed into law to continue delivering and getting our country back on track, reversing the damage that was done by Joe Biden in 4 years. What the Democrats did working with Joe Biden, not just to increase inflation, increase interest rates, to increase regulations and rules that stifled the ability for small businesses to grow. We've been working hard to reverse all of that. And while we are celebrating all of these wins, we are not tired of winning. And the American people aren't either. That's why this week we still have more bills on the House floor, but we also have a lot of work being done in our committees. The Appropriations Committee this week is taking up 3 more appropriations bills in full committee. Tom Cole and his members have been doing an incredible job of getting their bills out of committee. The House has already passed over 60% of all government funding over to the Senate. And this week we're going to see something that hasn't happened in years. The United States Senate is finally taking up a House appropriations bill. That should be something that's always going on in Congress, where you see the House and Senate doing their jobs together. But Chuck Schumer, for years, refused to participate in a normal appropriations process because he wanted shutdowns. He wanted chaos. It's one of the reasons the Democrats lost the Senate, is because the American people didn't want that dysfunction. And John Thune promised there would be a new day in the United States Senate, and Leader Thune is delivering on that. And one of those commitments he made is that we would have a normal working appropriations process, and they're actually doing that this week, moving the Milcon VA appropriations bill and continuing to move more of the bills that we're sending over from the House. And so as the American people see Washington working for them for a change, we're also going to be going during this district work period and explaining to the American people what's been in a lot of those bills, because the Democrats have been lying over and over and over again about tax cuts for billionaires. They're talking about hospitals closing. Everybody in America is going to die, according to every Democrat. And, of course, when the American people look at what's in those bills, they're going, wait a minute. You know, the waiter and waitress in America who averages $32,000 a year is going to get about $1,700 more dollars in their pockets. That's real money for working people. And every Democrat voted no. You know, so while they're going back home and explaining and lying about the bills, we're going to start panning out across the country, telling the truth about what really is happening in the economy for working families. And we're proud of that. We're not done delivering But I think it's important that we take some time to talk about what we've already done and delivered as we continue to move more bills. Like I said, a lot of work being done this week in committees. Energy and Commerce has taken up the NIL bill. You're seeing Judiciary focus on that report. It's been covered pretty well, but I think there's a lot more to the story about the Russian collusion hoax that started under President Obama, and some of those facts are finally starting to come out. You know, it's interesting to see Democrats want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein all of a sudden. For 4 years, Democrats hid and covered up the Epstein files. They did. They had it for 4 years. And Trump's in the courts right now trying to get a lot of that information unsealed so the American public can see it. But we're going to continue pushing for that transparency. Our committees are going to keep working to deliver more results for American families. That's what we've been doing. That's what we're going to continue to do, while Democrats just vote no. They hide, they lie, they try to talk about what they would do if they were in power. But of course, everybody knows what they did when they were in power. They moved a far-left socialist agenda. They're about to elect as their new party leader a socialist Marxist mayor of New York City. If they're going to endorse him or not. But the bottom line is that's where their party has moved in Washington, in New York. But that's not where America is. Republicans are delivering for Americans, for hardworking families, all across the political spectrum. And that's why this economy is finally starting to move in the right direction. Our speaker, who's never slowed down, who's never accepted failure as an option, the man who continues to work and is so patient, listen to our members, and then ultimately delivering with President Trump on this great agenda, is our Speaker, Mike Johnson.
Thank this leadership team and all of you. Good morning. Thank you. Representative Kagan's doing an extraordinary job for Virginia and our military families and all of the issues she works so hard on. Thank you for all that hard work. I tell you what, it's been an exciting 6 months. Sunday, as you all probably know, marked the first 6 months of the Trump presidency, the second term. The 47th president has had an incredible run. We're on a winning streak. America's hot again. We're bringing back strength and prosperity and capitalizing and delivering on all the campaign promises that President Trump made on the campaign trail and that all Republicans did by extension. We're really proud of that. And I tell you what, history is going to record this to be one of the most consequential, extraordinary first 6 months of any administration ever, because we have unified government. The voters in this country gave Republicans the chance to turn this mess around, and we are. So we have the White House and the Senate and the House, and we're using it effectively every single day. And here in the House, we've kept pace with President Trump's extraordinary momentum. He never sleeps, and so we don't get to either. We've been codifying his executive orders at a record pace. We're cementing America First policies into law. We're enacting the full scale of the Trump administration's agenda, with the passage, of course, of the One Big Beautiful Bill, sort of a capstone of the first 6 months. And we've accomplished so much in just that time period. And I think the key is we've done that with unity. As you all have noticed, it's very deliberate. We work very closely, hand in hand, the Senate and House Republicans as one united team. That's kind of an innovation in Washington, but a very important one. And we've demonstrated that that unity is how we deliver. There's no majority in the history of this body that can wield power unless it stands together. And so I work really hard. We all do. This leadership team does every day to keep everybody rowing in the same direction. This morning at our weekly conference meeting, we discussed the upcoming schedule, given the Democrats' endless efforts to politicize the Epstein controversy and that whole investigation. I want to be clear about this. There's a reason behind what we are doing here. We have a responsibility, actually a dual responsibility here, okay? I've been on record very clearly that I believe in maximum transparency. I think every single House Republican will say the same thing. In fact, they've told me that publicly and privately. They talk about this. We want maximum transparency. We also understand the other part of that duty is that we have to protect innocent victims, okay? We have to do both things at the same time. What do we mean by that? Look, involved in the Epstein evil, okay, which is what it was. Let's call it what it was. There are innocent victims of those unspeakable sex crimes, okay? Some of them were minors, some of them were not. When the Epstein records are turned over to the public, which we must do as quickly as possible, we have to also be very judicious and careful about protecting the innocent. I think everybody in the country should understand the necessity of that. It is the standard. I used to be a litigator. It's the standard in the court of law and the courts. It's the standard in law enforcement. Anyone who's served in law enforcement understands the necessity of that. It is the standard with government agencies. We protect the innocent. So we cannot be careless in an open release like that. You have to be very careful. The president himself has said that he wants maximum transparency and all credible evidence to be turned over to the American public so that everyone can make their own decisions. We're owed that. And we want any individual who has been involved in any way in the Epstein evils to be brought to justice as quickly as possible. And the law should be brought down upon their head. We're unequivocal about that, okay? We have to make sure that the credible evidence is revealed, and we're doing that. The president has made a request to the courts in the grand jury testimony and the files there, for example. And the court should turn that over, and that will be a continuing and ongoing quest. Now, what we refuse to do is participate in another one of the Democrats' political games. This is a serious matter. We are not going to let them use this as a political battering ram. The Rules Committee became the ground for them to do that. We're not going to allow them to engage in that charade anymore. Why do I call it a charade? Because the Democrats are trying to play gotcha politics right now when, as the leader just pointed out, they don't have any moral high ground on this at all. They controlled the Department of Justice for the last 4 years. Has anyone forgotten? They had all these files the entire time. They sat on everything Epstein related for 4 long years while President Biden was in office. You could draw your own conclusions as to why, but we've been intellectually consistent the entire time. And I want to say this about my colleagues Ro Khanna and Jim McGovern and Hakeem Jeffries and so many others. They've tweeted about Epstein countless times in the last 2 weeks, but go back and look at their social media accounts, we have, and their public comments. They had exactly 0 posts on the subject for the last 4 years of the Biden administration. Interesting, isn't it? We all understand that the America First agenda and the American people are best served by putting an end to the Democrats' sideshows. And that's what we're doing by not allowing the Rules Committee to continue with that nonsense this week. As was noted, we've got tons of very important work going on here. The leader just gave you a small sampling of it. But we're done being lectured on transparency by the same party that orchestrated one of the most shameless, dangerous political cover-ups in the history of this country or any government on the face of planet Earth. If the Democrats want to talk transparency, I'm happy to rewind the tape. 366 days ago, President Joe Biden was unceremoniously forced off the Democrat ticket. Everybody knows why. Even after millions of Americans had already cast their primary votes for him, the self-proclaimed party of democracy threw out their nominee, the sitting president of the United States, for his disastrous debate performance. On the debate stage, President Biden revealed to the American people what Democrats in Congress spent 4 long years trying to hide, that the President of the United States of America was in rapid mental decline and unable to continue serving as the leader of the free world. I'm going to say that again. The man holding the most powerful office on the face of the earth, who we now know was being propped up by his staff and Democrats in Congress, was in rapid mental decline. It was as shocking as it was dangerous, and they all participated in it. Nearly every single one of the Democrats who shamelessly attempted to pull the wool over our eyes still holds office today. You ought to be chasing them down the hallways asking for their responses on that. We released a 14-minute-long video yesterday with just a small sample of the countless receipts of the Democrats at every level spinning this fantastical lie to the American people. I encourage every reporter in this room to go watch that. You ought to use the clips, and you ought to go ask them about it. And remember that the same Democrats who lied to us for years are now trying to convince you they stand for transparency. They participated in one of the greatest political scandals in all of history, and the House Republicans are not going to allow this to be whitewashed from the historical record. We'll continue to investigate and shine light on those who perpetrated this and provide answers directly to the American people. Now, President Biden's mental condition was poor, but his legacy of achievement in office was even worse. And I've said many times, after those 4 years of Biden and Harris, every single area of public policy was in a disastrous state. In Congress and the White House, we've been hard at work from day one of this Congress, day one of the Trump administration, trying to undo all that damage of the last 4 years. And we're laying the foundation for what will make our country safer, stronger, and more prosperous than ever before. The American people gave President Trump a clear mandate to enact his America First agenda, and Republicans answered the call. To date, we've enacted 50 of the president's executive orders, from reining in bureaucratic waste, fraud, and abuse, to passing common-sense legislation, to delivering our once-in-a-generation legislative victories through the One Big Beautiful Bill. Let me give you a quick summary. Americans asked for secure borders and safer communities, and Republicans delivered the largest investment in border security and interior enforcement on record. And with the Halt Fentanyl Act and the Lake and Riley Act, We're making sure American communities are safe from deadly drugs and illegal aliens that have taken far too many lives. The American people asked us for bigger paychecks and more affordable gas and groceries, and we delivered on that too. We delivered the largest working and middle-class tax cut in the history of the United States. And we've torn down Biden-era regulations like the California EV mandate that was just madness and worked against working families and American energy dominance. The American people demanded fiscal sanity, and Republicans delivered again. We passed more than $1.5 trillion in spending cuts so the government can begin to live within its means again. All of this is real, positive change for American families. The kind that they are going to directly feel in their bank accounts, they're going to see it in their neighborhoods, and they're going to count on it for years to come. Any of these individual feats as standalone bills would have been considered historic achievements by any Republican Congress. And we got them all done, all together, in one big, beautiful bill. And the more the American people hear about that bill, the more they like it. There was a Harvard Harris poll that recently surveyed the individual titles, the individual pieces of the big bill. And they found that 17 of the 21 major proposals polled had a majority of support. That's including things like reducing federal spending and imposing common sense work requirements on public assistance. But while the American people continue to learn about the bill, they'll also begin to feel its positive effects because we did this on a very aggressive timetable. As you all know, we put it on an ambitious timeline to be delivered. Many in this room said it wouldn't succeed. You wrote about it. I read all that. That's fine. We said we needed 6 weeks to craft our House budget resolution, and we passed it in February. We said we'd pass our House version of the One Big Beautiful Bill by Memorial Day, and we beat that deadline by 4 days. We said we'd pass it through both chambers and get it to the President's desk for signature by July 4th. And what happened? We had a big, beautiful signing ceremony at the White House on Independence Day. It was a historic day, and it's a testament to what this House Republican Conference can accomplish when we remain united and working towards a common goal. Last thought here, on closing note, this is the last leadership press conference before we enter the August district work period. Around here, people call it the August recess. It is not that, okay? So I know that lots of people in the press corps are going to be able to enjoy some downtime with friends and families, and we commend you for that, but House Republicans aren't going to get to participate in all that stuff because this month of August is not a vacation. This is arguably the most important work month on our calendar. Why? Because our members go home, they connect with their constituents in person, they host roundtables with local businesses and organizations, they meet with community stakeholders and local officials, really, really important components of the job. And frankly, they need to cut through the false and misleading claims about the One Big Beautiful Bill from the media and the Democrats. As I mentioned, the more people know, the more they greatly favor the bill that we passed. And House Republicans are going to spend the month highlighting how it will positively impact our districts and our communities. With that, I'll take a few questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Chad.
Good morning. You say yesterday that you were in lockstep with the administration on the Epstein files, but it doesn't seem that you're in lockstep with all of your House Republicans. Thomas Massey just saying in the past hour that this is going to come back and bite Republicans. What do you say to those schisms inside your conference here?
I say Thomas Massey is the one trying to bite Republicans, okay? I'm not quite certain what his strategy is.
But it's just not him. I mean, otherwise you guys wouldn't be calling off the week tomorrow. You'd be able to put your rules on the floor. I understand the issue with the Democrats.
Yeah, no, I just explained why. We're not going to play political games with this. We've all been very clear and transparent. The House Rules Resolution sets a good standard and requires all credible evidence to be released, and that's exactly where the White House is. There's no, as I've said many times over the last, as I've said many times, there's no daylight between the White House and the House. You have to allow the legislation to ripen, and you also have to allow the administration the space to do what it is doing. The president has said clearly, and he has now ordered his DOJ to do what it is we've all needed DOJ to do for years now, and that is to get everything released. So they're in the process of that. There's no purpose for Congress to push an administration to do something that they're already doing. And so this is for political games. I'm very resolute on this. We can both call for full transparency and also protect victims. And if you run roughshod or you do it too quickly, that's not what happens. But I'm convinced that the DOJ is going to do their job, the administration is going to do their job, and we'll do our job. And so we'll see to it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to follow up on that, I know before when you were asked whether or not you would back Mr. Massey for re-election, you didn't give a direct answer. he had some harsh things to say about your leadership yesterday related to the Epstein files. Have you made up your mind whether or not you would support him or back him against your presidential
So as the leader of my party, I lead the incumbent protection program. Okay, that's my job. I go all around the country. I travel endlessly, incessantly. I have to raise over $300 million to do that, and we want everybody to come back. And some people, I try to protect them from themselves. You know, they kick and scream and bite their own colleagues. Some people seem to enjoy trying to inflict political pain on their own teammates. I'm not going to address anybody individually, but I'll tell you that some here are much more frustrating than others. There's a small, tiny handful, but one in particular who's given me lots of consternation. I don't understand. I don't understand Thomas Massey's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. Thomas Massey could have brought his discharge petition any time over the last 4.5 years. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, he could have done that at any time. And now he's clamoring as if there's some sort of timeline on it. It's interesting to me that he chose the election of President Trump to bring this, to team up with the Democrats and bring this discharge petition. So do I have some concern about that? I do. But you know, in me and my way, I try to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, never speak evil of another Republican. My gosh, it's hard to do sometimes around here. I also try to follow the scripture. You know, it says, bless those who persecute you. So let me just say about Thomas Massey, could you just accept my Southern, bless his heart? Okay, I don't know what else to say about it. We're for maximum transparency. We're engaging in that right now, and we don't need political games. Yes, ma'am. Over here. Yes. Wait. I was pointing to her. Go ahead. Sorry.
So health insurance companies are requesting 15% premium increases for next year. They're citing the expiration of the Obamacare subsidies. Are Republicans thinking about this? Is there any possibility that they would look at extending those subsidies or any other things to do?
I think that goes to the end of the calendar year, so we'll have discussion about the issue later, but it hasn't come up yet. I mean, but it's on the radar. Back row, yes.
Two questions. First is, did the president or anyone in the administration ask you to delay the resolution until after recess?
No, but I, as you all know, I speak to the president multiple times a day on a typical day, often, always. And what I know about the president's heart on this is that he agrees with everything I've said here today. He wants maximum transparency, but he's also very insistent that we do not subject people who have already been victims of unspeakable crimes to further public scrutiny. And it would be a very dangerous thing to put those people's names out or to do a release of information in a way that is haphazard where they could be easily unmasked. And so you have to be very careful about how you do that. I think we have a moral responsibility to do that. We have a moral responsibility to expose the evil of Epstein, and everybody was involved in that. Absolutely. And we're resolved to do it. But we also have an equal moral responsibility to protect the innocent. And that is a fine needle to thread. And we could all give ourselves easy political cover and come out and do something in a haphazard fashion, but I would not be able to sleep at night because I know our legal responsibility. I understand what the legal standard is, but more than that, the moral standard, okay? So we're going to do this, and we're going to do it expeditiously. We're going to do it the right way. What is popular isn't always right, and what is right isn't always popular. I had an 8th grade teacher tell me that one time. I carried it with me my whole life. We're going to do the right thing here. And the American people at the end will see that we did that in the right way and on the right timetable. Yes, sir. Wait, hold on, wait a second. What'd you say? Wait, did she say it?
She did earlier.
Wait, come up here. I didn't hear.
You gotta say it loud.
Stand right here and tell them. Tell them. Last question.
Last question.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Wait, over here under the clock. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, behind you, right here. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Russia is still bombing Ukraine, and a lot of Ukrainian civilian people are still dying. Do you consider sanctions on Russia before the 50-day period?
We were talking about sanctioning Russia, but I think the House and the Senate agree. The White House, having given that deadline of 50 days, we need to allow the Commander-in-Chief and the administration and the Secretary of Defense and the Pentagon to do what they're going to do, and we'll see how that plays out. But I can tell you the appetite here is that we've got to bring accountability to Vladimir Putin and make this war cease. We need peace over there. It's gone on too long. Too many innocent people are dying, and we don't want further American involvement in this at all. But I do think what NATO is doing and our allies around the world may be effective. I think we've all had enough of it, and we hope it comes to an end soon. But we trust the Commander-in-Chief. He's restoring peace through strength. This is a big part of that. Thank you all so much.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live Show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.